Hello and welcome to Untwisted Threads. This yarn is called Signature 4-ply by West Yorkshire Spinners. This 40% wool, 35% Blueface Leicester, and 25% nylon yarn features 29 colors and a variety of self-patterning options as well. The colorway we chose is 351 Cardamom, a beautiful warm green. This 100-gram skein with 400 meters or 437 yards works up as a fingering weight yarn. The suggested gauge using 3¼ millimeter needles is 28 stitches and 36 rows in 4 inches or 10 centimeters. In today's video, we're going to review and score Signature 4-ply by West Yorkshire Spinners using our 5 categories, which are availability, softness, traction, durability, and cost to help you decide if this is the best yarn for you and your next project. Let's get started. For availability, we give Signature 4-ply a score of 5 out of 5. West Yorkshire Spinners originates in England, but that doesn't stop this yarn from being popular here in the United States too. Honestly, I can't recall going to a local yarn shop that didn't carry this yarn, especially at Christmas time for their holiday colorways. So you can find this yarn on Lovecrafts, on Amazon, Wool Warehouse, and so many other small craft shops too, more than likely including your local yarn shop. And you'll be happy to hear that they do offer a free digital color card for you to look at this yarn line, but I recommend you see their beautiful color selection in person before you make your yarn purchase. For softness, we give it a score of 4 out of 5. This yarn is what I describe as a woolly feeling yarn. It's not the softest yarn out there, but even my sensitive skin can enjoy it. If you're familiar with the contents of this yarn, I can absolutely recognize the 35% Blueface Leicester as it's softer than a lot of other wool yarns. With my sensitive skin, this is something I really try to look for when knitting, a woolly look or woolly feeling yarn, but soft enough that I can knit and enjoy it. I do want to mention that I can see how over time knitting with this yarn could cause irritation to my hands, but I had no problems when knitting my swatch. As the label doesn't mention the other type of wool included in this particular yarn, I'll just talk about the softness scale rating of the Blueface Leicester, so a little bit softer than Peruvian Highland wool and not quite as soft or delicate as merino. Since this yarn is not superwash treated, the use of Blueface Leicester fibers in this yarn allow it to be a little bit softer than Peruvian Highland wool, for example. I have felt more rustic and also softer sock yarns before, and I would consider this one to be a happy medium. In terms of warmth and breathability, you will be happy to hear that wool, even 75% wool, is one of the most breathable and common fibers for garments and will actively react to the changes in a body's temperature. For traction, we give it a score of 5 out of 5. I thought this yarn was great to work with. It wasn't sliding all over the place on my nickel-plated needles, but it also wasn't sticking to itself or had too much grip either. This tightly spun 4-ply didn't have any issues with splitting or coming apart and had a beautiful stitch definition that just melted together after blocking. It does have some medium-sized fibers sticking up away from the yarn, but I didn't find these to get in the way when I was knitting with it. For a comparison, I would say that this yarn acts and looks like a Peruvian Highland wool, but it has just that little bit of a softer hand. For durability, we give it a score of 4.5 out of 5. The label doesn't clearly say what other kind of wool is used in this yarn, but it does mention the 35% Blueface Leicester on the label. The feeling and qualities of this yarn remind me of a very durable and hardy Peruvian Highland wool. Similar to the qualities of a rustic wool, this yarn has an increased amount of strength and is hardier than, for example, merino yarn. As is the nature of a lot of sock yarns, this yarn features 25% nylon for that extra strength to hold up with the wear and tear that you might experience in a pair of socks. Now, since this yarn is not superwash treated, you will need to wash this yarn by hand and be careful when wearing it in high friction areas as the fibers could felt together. For example, a pair of socks worn in tight boots. The nylon content will help prevent this some, but it's not a 100% certainty that felting won't happen. For cost, we give it a score of 4.5 out of 5. For being a 100-gram skein, you can expect to pay around $13 US per skein. This breaks down to about 3 cents per yard, meaning a size medium sweater would cost approximately $52 US, or about $26 if you're wanting to knit a pair of socks with 2 contrasting 100-gram skeins. Honestly, if you're using 2 skeins to knit heels, toes, and cuffs, you could probably get 2 pairs of socks out of these 2 skeins, depending on the size of socks you're knitting. Overall, we give Signature 4-ply a score of 4.6 out of 5. This hardy sock yarn is a great choice if you're looking for more of a woolly feeling yarn, but not too rustic. With the added 25% of nylon, I expect a pair of socks knitted with this yarn would last you a long time as long as you wear them carefully. And as a side note, this lovely yarn has proudly won Best Sock Yarn at the British Knitting and Crochet Awards for 6 years running. So we had a little look on Ravelry and wanted to share a few pattern recommendations, hopefully to inspire you if you're wanting to make something with Signature 4-ply. Now yes, you could just use your favorite vanilla sock pattern and let their self-patterning colorways shine, but I thought it would be fun to find a few other pattern recommendations too. First, we have a pattern for fingerless mitts called Fingerless Gloves Leaves by Valentina Georgieva. It's a free pattern and is actually recommended to use an Aran weight yarn, but you could just hold this yarn double or maybe even triple to achieve gauge for these beautiful lace detailed mitts. I would recommend using a solid color for these to really let that lace design stand out. And unless you're riding a bike in the cold weather, mitts shouldn't really see much friction that would cause any felting. Next is a scarf and a hat set called the Cafe Cable Set by Universal Yarns and is a free pattern too. Now you may be thinking that a sock weight yarn to knit a scarf would take forever, and that is totally fair. This one is a DK weight pattern, but again, you can hold the fingering weight yarn double to achieve that gauge. It features a beautiful cable and ribbing detail for both the scarf and the matching hat. I would probably knit this in a solid color, but I think it would be really fun to see it knitted up in a pattern yarn too. And of course, I couldn't not recommend a sock pattern for this beautiful sock yarn, and this one is actually free too. This is called the Color Palette Socks by Laura Moorats. So I could see these being knit in a couple of different ways. You could use 2 solid colors with the main color stripes and the ribbing detail in between, or I would love to see these knit in one of the self-patterning colorways and use a solid color for the ribbing piece in between the stripes and also the heels, toes, and cuffs. What do you think? Have you used West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply yarn before? What yarn would you like for us to do a review on next? We would love to hear your thoughts and recommendations in the comments below. If you enjoyed our review, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.